and I fell on my knees. Wasn't it so fun? Something like that. Because we can, yeah. So, joy to the world, yes, yes. All right, so we're going to rock into 2010. We're going to talk about gifts, because that's what we're talking about, is unwrapping our gifts. All of the things that we need for success in this world have already been given to us. And the thing is, we haven't unwrapped them. All of the potential. And if there's one thing I want to get across today, is you don't have to do anything. You don't have to make anything happen. You don't have to prove that you are worthy, because you were worthy from the beginning. You are the worthy one of spirit. So, there are 7 gifts that we're going to talk about unwrapping, and the first is the gift of unity. There's only one. And if you really get that you live in a world of unity, that everything else proceeds from there. The second gift is the gift of creative thought, that your thoughts actually create your reality. And so that you know and you can watch and observe your own thinking and realize that you're actually co-creating your life and your reality right before your very eyes. And then the third gift is the gift of the 3 secrets, and they're not really secret. It's court the presence, use the power, speak your word. That's it. I mean, if we could just teach that, well, we wouldn't have to say anything more on Sunday. We wouldn't have to have any classes, because that's it. It's court the presence, use the power, speak your word. Can you say that with me? Court the presence, use the power, speak your word. That's it. That's it. So you could walk down the street and say, well, what church do you go to? What do you believe? Court the presence, use the power, speak your word. And let it go. And then everything else unfolds from there. And then the fourth is the gift of finding God. And that's a real personal thing. I've really been meditating on that. And I'm going to be asking that, how do you relate to this spiritual presence? Do you relate to it conceptually, ideas? Do you relate to it with the heart? What is your personal relationship to this spirit? And everybody's unique and everybody's different. So I'm going to be talking about that. And then the fifth gift is the gift of your purpose. Start meditating and thinking of what is it that you want to accomplish in 2010, but not just goals, not just things, but what it is that you want to accomplish to achieve your purpose, your personal vision. We try to challenge people all the time to have an idea and a vision for their life. I'm going to tell this story a little out of sync, because I was watching Charlie Rose the other night, and he was mentioning that Steve Jobs, you know, the founder of Apple, had given a commencement speech at Stanford University. And so I went and I looked it up. And what Steve Jobs said is something that he was speaking to the students, graduating students from Stanford. But what he said was 3 things that we can also use. And it was really kind of very interesting, because he said in the very beginning, he said, my parents, my biological parents, were graduate students. They were very smart people. But when I came along, they didn't want me, because it interfered with their graduate studies. But they wanted to have parents who graduated from college. So they found this lawyer and his wife who promised them that they would help Steve graduate from college. There's this little baby. So right after the birth, the lawyer calls up and says, oh, it's a boy, we wanted a girl, no deal. So here's this little baby, and the mother who doesn't want him, and they found another couple, and as it turned out that this couple were working people. They had not graduated from college. She had graduated from high school. He didn't even graduate from high school. And they weren't going to give them away, but they finally made a deal that they promised that Steve Jobs would go to college. And so, true to their promise, because they were very upright people, they sent him to Reed College in Oregon. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Reed College in Oregon, but it's very, very expensive. And he was there in his first year of studies, and he realized that this wasn't for him, and that it was costing huge amounts of money that his parents could not afford. So he dropped out in his first year, but he stayed for 18 more months at the college. He stayed there. He slept on the floor. He would gather up Coke cans and Coke bottles in order to eat. And the interesting, he made 3 points. The first point he made is that you have to follow your heart. Whatever it is for your vision, it's follow what your heart tells you. And even if it maybe doesn't make sense at the time, you can't connect the dots in the beginning. You have to wait until you see. And he gave an example. He said while he was dropped out from Reed College, he decided, I'll just take classes that I want to take. Because I can sneak in and take the classes. I know I'm not getting credit for them. So he took a class in calligraphy. Okay, he's 19 years old. He takes this class in calligraphy and he learns all about these fonts, all about all of these kinds of fonts and things like that. So the next year, when he's in his garage working with his friend, creating the Apple Computer Corporation, he's the first one who had all these fonts. And he made the point is that, you know, all the fonts you see in the Word documents and all of the things you use, it came out of this experience in Reed College. And so Steve Jobs said, if we hadn't had that, if he hadn't had that, we wouldn't have the things that we have now. He wouldn't have realized. He didn't know why he was taking the class when he was 19, but when he was 30, he did. So his point is that if you follow your heart, then whatever is happening, it will all make sense at some other time. You can't maybe make sense of it totally. The second point that he made is, after follow your heart, is that you're going to have disappointments. And he used the example, here he is, he's 30 years old, he turned a company that started in a garage when he was 20 into a $4 billion company when he's 30. And guess what happened? They fired him. They said, we don't want you anymore. And he said the first reaction he had was he was ashamed. Yeah. He said, oh my God, I mean, this was my whole life. I put everything into this, and it's like you're firing me? How can this happen? And after he had his pity party and all of those kinds of things, he turned around and he said, I'm going to change this crisis into an opportunity. There's something here better for me. And he formed a new company called Pixar, which is the largest animation company in the world now. And he formed this, and it came about because he was let go from Apple. And his point was that he was making is, when we have obstacles in our lives, you turn them into opportunities because things don't happen just because they happen. They're an opening, a door that's opening into something new. So jump into it with passion. And the third thing's a little more controversial. In 2004, he went to the doctor, and he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And he looked at the doctor and he said, what should I do? And the doctor said, put your affairs in order quickly. And so here he was, he's in the prime of his life, he's like 50 years old, and he has this, what he thought was his whole life before him. And the first thing that came to him is, we never know what's going to happen, but all of us are going to face that issue at some point. And when we leave this world, he said, how do we leave it? Do we leave it with all of our goodies? He said, no, we leave it going out the way we came in, right. Naked. Yeah. And of course, I guess it reminded me of that joke, you never see a U-Haul trailer behind a hearse. There you go. But instead of seeing this in a negative way, he saw it in a positive way. He said that, what are you risking when you're always worried about, oh, well, this might happen or that might happen? He said, again, follow your heart, be persistent, take the risk. Because we're all, in this world, we're all going to end up leaving in the same way. And it doesn't matter if we've got thousands and millions of dollars or we don't. But the question is, did you follow your passion? Did you do what you really wanted to do? Now, the interesting thing is about 2 days later, they did a biopsy and they put a needle in there and they drew the cells out. And the doctor, he went to see the doctor, and the doctor was actually crying. And he had never seen the doctor cry like that before. And the doctor was actually crying for joy. Because he told Steve, he said, this is unbelievable. You have such a rare form of this disease that it can be treated. It's one of the few that can be treated, and you can be completely cured. And he was. So it was an inspiring idea that when you live your purpose, if you know what it is that you want to do with your life, the universe will conspire to make it happen. All you need to do is be clear. And remember, whatever it is, you're already worthy. So there's so many people. I was listening to Alan Watts the other day, and Alan Watts was saying, all these people say, well, I have to work here first, or I have to do that first, or I have to prove myself to somebody, to prove that I'm worthy, or to prove I'm a good disciple. You don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is say yes. And when you say yes, the universe takes care of the rest. And then there's the gift, the sixth gift of the facts and the truth. And the way Thomas Troward said simply this: make the facts of your life the truth of your being. Okay? So, you have the truth of your being, and all you want to do is make those things congruent. Which really means do those things that prosper you in every way, and that will prosper the universe in every way. Do those things that come from the truth of your being. And then the seventh and last gift to unwrap is the gift of the present moment. Make this day, whatever day it is, the best day of your life. Now, as I explore these 7 gifts, as we unwrap them, I'm going to do a few quotes from Ernest Holmes, because they're very inspiring quotes. And this is my favorite one from the entire Science of Mind textbook. And it goes like this: there is one infinite mind from which all things come. This mind is through, in, and around each of us. It is the only mind there is, and every time we think, we use it. There is one infinite spirit, and every time we say, I am, we proclaim it. There is one infinite substance, and every time we move in it. There's one infinite law, and every time we think, we set this law in motion. There's one infinite God, and every time we speak to this God, we receive a direct answer. One. I am God, and there is none else. There is one limitless life. In all, over all, through all, talk, act, live, and believe that you are the center of this one, because all of the power there is, all of the presence there is, all of the love there is, all of the peace there is, all of the good there is, and the only God there is omnipresent. Consequently, the infinite is in and through you, and in and through everyone. In and through everyone. If you can get that embodiment and work on that embodiment, if you can see, if there's only one, how can you discriminate against another person? How can you say, well, this person isn't as good as that person, or I'm not as good as that person? It's universally incorrect. It cannot be true. How can you not help but reach out to another person in distress? Because that person, the only question you need to ask, Ernest Holmes says, every day of your life is, do you, in your thoughts, attitudes, and the way you live, bear witness to the living truth that God is all there is? Make this a policy. He says that's the only creed you'll ever need. Let me repeat it, because it says, do you, in your thought, your attitude, and the way you live, bear witness to the living truth that God is all there is? So there's no separation. There's no duality. There is only unity. There is only oneness. The gift of oneness. And the second, of course, is the gift of creative thought. And we know this. Our thoughts create our reality. And again, a quote from Holmes. Can you afford the consequences of the way you are thinking? Because the way you think is the way you act, and the way you act is what happens. So we know this, and we do have this power that we can watch our own thoughts. We can actually observe, take dominion over the circumstances of your life. follow the ideas that Steve Jobs gives us. Follow your heart. If there's an obstacle, turn it into an opportunity, and know that because we're all going to end up in the same place, you're really not risking anything when you take these kinds of chances. And then the gift of the 3 secrets: court the presence, use the power, speak your word. Again, a quote by Holmes: if I pass on tonight, they can take everything I've ever written, toss it in the ashes. It's going to be thrown there someday anyway. But 2 things remain. He said, there is a presence, there's a power in the universe which constitutes the dual unity of action and reaction and the polarity from which all things come. Learn to court the presence not only by seeing God in everyone and everything, but by feeling God all the time. Feel the presence in the sacred place of your own consciousness, and then use the power. Your thoughts will change the conditions of your life. So, the reason I quote Holmes is because he gets so clear sometimes. And it is really the basis of our teaching. Again, in number 4, the gift of finding God. Find God in the silence of your own soul. Again, Holmes says, every person becomes his own philosophy, his own institution, and what he is conditioned by. You're married. You are married to your own soul, for better or worse, for richer, for poor, in life and in death, now and forever. And sometimes, he said, that thought frightened me. That I didn't always like myself, but I can't get a divorce. And the thing we are searching for is the thing we are searching with. Universal mind is resident everywhere. So this idea of finding spirit, I'm just asking you to kind of meditate on that idea for yourself. How do you relate to God? Do you relate to God with the heart? Do you relate to a personification of God? It doesn't matter how you connect up. And some people have come to me over the years and say, Tom, I just don't know if God really exists. And you know, that's all right to bring a questioning mind. Somebody asked me the other day, he said, well, what about atheists? And I said, atheists are welcome in Science of Mind. Well, why are they welcome? Because anybody who is open and receptive can get this feeling about spirit, this oneness of spirit. So how can you do it? Just have faith. Pray for more faith. Open yourself up to the experience. And the gift of purpose. Ernest Holmes again says, it's not that God has a purpose for us, but that we have a purpose in God. We cannot escape the fact that we're here, something has to be done, and we're the only one who can do anything about it. You are the only one who can do anything about your life. You are the one who needs to take dominion and control. And you don't have to deserve your purpose because it's already there. And the 6th one is the gift of the facts and the truth. You are to recognize, Ernest Holmes says, you're already perfect, whole, and complete. You already have complete manifestation regardless of what's appearing in your life. And it doesn't matter how serious the condition is. I love this one. It doesn't. That's why we always say, somebody calls me up and says, oh, the doctor says I got 6 months to live. And I say to them, after a while, I don't say it right away, I say to them, you're suffering from a slight negative condition. And somebody else calls me up and says, I have the sniffles. And I say to them, you're suffering from a slight negative condition. Because it's all the same. Any practitioner knows this. And Ernest Holmes says it here. He says, it doesn't matter how serious the condition is, there is no big or small in divine mind, be it a planet or a peanut. But can you see the truth of that? It doesn't matter what the negativity is, because it isn't the truth. And we can treat for a planet just as well as we can treat for a peanut. Or we can treat for what we call, quote, a serious disease or the common cold. And then the last thing is the gift of the present moment. To live now. To make this day the best day of your life. And Ernest Holmes said it this way. He said, when I go, people are going to come to you and say, the most wonderful thing happened. Ernest appeared to me and talked to me. He said, if that happens, close the door in their face. Because it isn't true. When I leave, He said, I'm going for good, and I'm not coming back to talk about it. My work will be finished here. I know this planet as well as I ever want to. I don't plan to come this way again. Now, that's said by a person who has fully lived his life, asking you this very question. This very question. Are you committed to fully living your life in 2010? Are you the one who can say, whenever that time comes, and I already envision it, I don't know, I'm 94 years old, you know, the hopefully grandchildren will be standing around and saying, I think Grandpa's eyes are opening up, and I want to be there, and I want to look up at him and say, I want to look at him and say, I did it. Everything I wanted to do, I did. I'm filled up, I'm used up, and I'm ready to roll to the next experience. I think that's the goal, is to move to that so we know that we have accomplished what it is that we want to accomplish. We didn't leave anything behind. And so I want to end today, of course, with a poem. And it's called, surprisingly so, The 7 Gifts of Spirit. There are 7 gifts of spirit to end your fear and strife. The first is the gift of unity, the oneness of all life. Each person evolves from one absolute and single source. Freedom is the birthright for all to claim as a matter of course. And the second gift is the realization that you choose your life to be. The way you think is the way you'll live for all eternity. Stinking thinking or positive thought, you're sure to pay the price. Living in self-made misery or a trip to paradise. The third gifts are the gifts of the 3 secrets of the process to unfold. Court the presence, use the power, and speak your word so bold. The fourth gift is finding God at the center of your soul. How you relate to your spiritual source is that which makes you whole. You can find God everywhere, in a lonely place or a throng, in an ocean breeze, in somebody's sneeze, in the music of a song. The fifth gift is your purpose, the longing of your heart, the place you put your energy as your journey you do start. So find the thing that you love to do. Maybe poetry, like Robert Frost. Then do it with persistence and style, regardless of the cost. You'll find you touch the truth of life, sorting your truth from all the facts, because you found your real authentic truth. So you can sit back and relax and know that you're living in the now, the present moment dear. Your past has been illumination, and the future is not yet here. And so you smile, so confident that you've slowed that hectic pace. You're fully living these 7 great gifts with courage and with grace. Make 2010 the best year of your life. And so it is. All right.
We take this opportunity to share our gifts. And every gift has a giver and a recipient. And as we give, we simultaneously